On the day I was admitted to a wealthy family, the first gift my mother handed me was a charge sheet. Slippers 880. Pajamas 2,600. Etiquette class 32,000. Staying in Pei's guest room costs 1,000 per night. My mother smiled softly when she pushed the paper in front of me. Ningxia, you grew up outside and don't understand many roles. Your parents are willing to teach you, but resources cannot be given in vain. Now that you are back, you should learn to cherish them. I stared at the A4 paper with the Pei Group's letterhead printed on it and said nothing for a while. The black Bentley that picked me up was still parked in the yard. Before I could put down the canvas bag that the driver carried me through the door, I saw this details of family integration fees. The living room was very bright, and the crystal lamp fell down, making me dizzy. Sitting in front of me are my biological parents, Pei Chengyuan, chairman of the Pei family, and Pei's wife, Shen Man. On the other side of the sofa, there was a girl wearing a Chanel skirt sitting. Her curly hair was slightly disheveled, her nails were made into light pink cat eyes, and a white Bichon frise lay at her feet. Her name is Pei Xingyan, the fake daughter who has been raised by the Pei family for 20 years. He is also the one who is truly loved by this family. She held the juice and smiled at me. Sister, don't mind. My parents are so strict with everyone. I used to learn piano, equestrian, and violin, and it cost the family a lot of money. When she said this, Shen Man had just put a black card into her hand. Xingyan, you can choose your own dress for the charity dinner tonight and wear whichever one you like. Pei Xingyan stuck out her tongue and said sweetly, Mom, you're spoiling me again. Shen Man raised his hand and rubbed her hair, his tone almost overflowing with love. If I don't tolerate you, who will? I looked down at the charge sheet and slowly curled my fingertips. It turns out that being strict with everyone means that she takes the black card and I sign the IOU. 1. Seeing that I was silent, Shen Man's tone became calmer. Do you feel wrong? Ningxia, your parents have already taken a lot of publicity risks by bringing you back. Your identity, your past, your conversation, your habits, which one should not be repackaged. The room you live in was vacated by Xingyan herself. The etiquette class I gave you was a famous teacher I invited through my connections. You can enjoy all this with peace of mind. I raised my head. Then how much do I have to pay back? Pei Chengyuan finally spoke. He was leaning on the sofa, holding a cup of coffee in his hand, and sounded like he was discussing an ordinary contract. Remember it first. When you work in the future, pay it back slowly. Of course, you can also choose to leave now. The Pei family won't force anyone. The living room was quiet for a second. Pei Xingyan lowered her eyes as if she was very uneasy and whispered to me, Sister, don't think too much. My parents are just hard-spoken and soft-hearted. I looked at her innocent face and suddenly remembered that half an hour ago, she was smiling like this when she saw me standing at the top of the stairs. So you are the sister who was found. Welcome home. We will get along well from now on. She said it so sincerely. The next second, the maid threw my luggage into the guest room in the corner. That's not welcome. That reminds me that there can only be one princess in this family. I looked away, lowered my head, and flipped through the pages of the charge sheet. Shampoo, shower gel, toothbrush, hair dryer, room decoration fee, daily nutrition fee, body shape correction class, social training class. Even the spare pair of slippers on my feet had a price tag. I suddenly laughed softly. Shen Man frowned. Why are you laughing? I put the paper back on the coffee table with a very soft voice. Nothing. This is the first time I've seen someone turn the recognition of their daughter into an installment loan. Shen Man's face suddenly darkened. Pei Chengyuan also cast a cold look. Pei Ningxia, put away your yin and yang aura. Those petty attitudes you learned outside will have to change when you enter the Pei family. Pei Xingyan quickly stood up and took Shen Man's hand. Mom, my sister just came back today, so she may not be used to it yet. I'll show her the room first. Only then did Shen Man suppress his anger and waved his hand. Go ahead. By the way, bring this list up and have her sign it. Pei Xingyan bent down and handed me the stack of paper. When she came closer, the perfume on her body was very sweet, but there was a coldness in her eyes that I was very familiar with. When I was a child in the orphanage, children who snatched other people's quilts would also look at people with this look. She lowered her voice and said with a smile, Sister, things from the Pei family are very expensive. Don't owe so much that you can't afford to pay it back. I looked up at her. She has put away the thorns and curled her lips, like a white rose without teeth. I held the charge sheet and followed her upstairs. When the door opened, I paused. The house is not big. It is located in the north, and there is no sunlight. There was an old desk at the end of the bed, and there were a few old clothes hanging in the cabinet that were obviously out of stock. The most dazzling thing is a new piece of printing paper taped to the bedside. It reads, Guest room usage rules. 1. You are not allowed to enter the master bedroom area and Miss Pei Xingyan's dressing room without permission. 2. You are not allowed to use the piano room, video room, or swimming pool at home without permission. 3. It is forbidden to turn on the lights after 11 o'clock at night, and additional electricity charges will be charged. 4. If there is any damage, compensation will be made according to the price. The signature is Pei Xingyan. She stood at the door and explained softly, Sister, I was also afraid that you might not be familiar with it when you first arrived, so I helped you sort it out in advance. Don't bother me. I'm doing this for your own good. I looked at her and suddenly asked, Which room do you live in? She was startled, then smiled. The one next to the master bedroom. The one faces south, has a balcony, and has a separate cloakroom and piano room. My parents were afraid that I would not live comfortably, so they kept it for me. After she finished speaking, she seemed to suddenly remember something and quickly added something. But sister, don't get me wrong, I don't mean to argue with you. As long as you are willing, we'll be the closest sisters from now on. I nodded, walked into the room, and put the canvas bag on the bed. In the bag there were only 2 sets of old clothes that were washed white, a thermos cup with a cracked corner, and the mobile phone my grandma left for me. Grandma just passed away last month. I was picked up by the Pei family after taking her urn and completing the last paternity test. Before she died, she held my hand and said something. Xia Xia, when you go back to your parents' house, you don't have to endure hardship anymore. I believed it then. Now I realize that this place is colder than the small single room I rented in the county town. At least there I don't have to sign to drink hot water. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the maid knocked on the door and told me to come downstairs for dinner. The dining table is long, and the dishes are beautifully arranged. Pei Xinyan was sitting next to Shen Man, coquettishly saying that she wanted to go to Paris to watch a show recently. Pei Chengyuan didn't even raise his head and agreed directly. Okay, let the assistant book the front row for you tomorrow. I pulled up the chair at the end and sat down. Just as I picked up the chopsticks, the servant next to me suddenly handed over a credit card machine. I was stunned. The servant said expressionlessly, Miss, the standard for tonight's family banquet is $380 per person. Madam said that since you have signed the expense bill, food and beverages should also be included in the monthly balance. The hand holding the chopsticks turned white a little bit. Pei Xinyan exclaimed, Aunt Zheng, why did you bring this to the table? My sister will be embarrassed. Aunt Zheng lowered her head. This is what my wife told me. Shen Man wiped the corners of his mouth slowly and finally laid his eyes on me. You can choose not to eat it. Or do the accounting first. I looked at the table of steaming dishes and suddenly felt very empty in my stomach. I have only drank 1 bottle of mineral water from the airport since noon. Now my eyes felt dizzy and my palms felt cold. Pei Xinyan put a shrimp into the bowl with a soft tone. Sister, eat quickly. Pei's food is different from outside. It's normal to be a little more expensive. I slowly put down my chopsticks and asked, how much does a bowl of white rice cost? The restaurant was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Aunt Zhang was stunned for 2 seconds, then lowered her head to flip through the list. 20. I nodded. Then fill me half a bowl. I can only afford half a bowl. After saying that, I scanned the remaining $10 in my phone to the servant. There was a beep and the payment failed. Insufficient balance. At that moment, Pei Xinyan couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. She covered her mouth and said quickly, I'm sorry, sister. I didn't mean it. That's enough. Pei Chengyuan slapped his chopsticks on the table, his voice cold. A shame. A wealthy daughter makes such a fuss at the dinner table over half a bowl of rice. You have disgraced the Pei family. I raised my head and looked at the man who was closest to me by blood, and suddenly felt very strange. I stood up and said softly, Then I won't eat. I turned around and walked upstairs when Shen Man's cool words came from behind me. Starting from tomorrow, increase her etiquette class to 6 hours a day. You don't even have the most basic decency. Learn more. I didn't look back. After returning to the room, I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark and took out an old notebook from my bag. The first page is written with Grandma's name, the second page is with the county rent, and the third page is the account I used to buy medicine for Grandma. I turned to the last page and took out a pen to write the first note about returning to Pei's house. $880 for slippers, $2,600 for pajamas, $32,000 for etiquette lessons, $1,000 for room accommodation, and $20,000 for half bowl of rice for dinner. After I finished writing, I stared at the line of words for a long time. There were bright lights outside the window, and there was faint laughter from the master bedroom. I closed the notebook and curled up on the corner of the bed with my knees in my arms. Suddenly, I remembered that on the day my grandma was buried, I was kneeling alone in front of the cemetery. It was raining, and I received a message from the Pei family on my phone. The identification results have been confirmed. Please go home as soon as possible. I thought at that time that the word go home was worth a lot of money. I just found out now. They did give me an offer. It's just so expensive that I can't even afford a bowl of rice. And this is just the beginning. Early the next morning, as soon as I opened my eyes, I saw a new piece of paper stuffed under the door. I picked it up, glanced at it, and felt a chill down my back. That was a supplementary charge sheet. The top line reads, The disruption to the family dinner last night affected Miss Pei Xinyan's mood, and the cost of mental comfort was 50,000 yuan. Sign off. Shen Man. 2. I looked at the supplementary charge sheet for a full minute. 50,000 yuan. I used to work in a milk tea shop in the county town, earning a monthly salary of 2,800 yuan. When my grandma was hospitalized, I washed dishes, handed out leaflets, and went to the night market to help people skewer sausages. I worked hard, but I didn't save enough 50,000 yuan in a year. I folded the paper and put it in my notebook. Then get up and go to the bathroom to wash up. As soon as the faucet was turned on, there was a knock on the door. Aunt Zhang stood at the door, holding a timer in her hand. Madam, please tell me that starting from today, the eldest lady's washing water will be charged by the minute. Hot water will be charged at 15 per minute, and cold water will be charged at 8 per minute. I was stunned for 2 seconds. Does washing your face count? Calculate. Where are you brushing your teeth? Calculate. I looked at the timer in her hand and suddenly felt funny. I used to be poor, but no one stood next to me with a stopwatch, staring at how much it cost to wash my face. Now I am the biological daughter they tried so hard to find, but even turning on the faucet feels like stealing. I looked down at the brand new set of skincare products on the sink, then turned around and took out the toothbrush and soap I had brought with me from the canvas bag. Then I don't need yours. Aunt Zhang said expressionlessly. Soap is also for public consumption in the room. I nodded and said no more. 10 minutes later, after I finished washing, Aunt Zhang made a note in the notebook. 3 minutes of hot water and 2 minutes of cold water, a total of 61. She wrote very seriously, as if registering a big business. When she went downstairs, Pei Xinyan was already sitting at the dining table eating breakfast. She was wearing a white knitted skirt, and her hair was braided into a loose princess braid. Bird's nest, avocado salad, and freshly baked croissants were placed in front of her. Shen Man is choosing dinner earrings for her. This one is too plain, change it to the one with diamond tassels. You stand next to Mr. Gu tonight, and cannot be compared. Pei Xinyan said coquettishly, Mom, I went to bed too late last night, and I don't want to go to etiquette class today. Shen Man smiled fondly. If you don't want to go, don't go. Let the teacher come back another day. My step stopped. Yesterday, she said that I don't even have the most basic decency and that I need to increase the etiquette class to 6 hours. Today, Pei Xinyan said I don't want to and the class was cancelled. As soon as I walked to the dining table, Aunt Zhang handed me another small ticket. Miss, there are 3 levels of breakfast. Category A is 909, Category B is 502, and Category C is 180. Is boiled water free? Aunt Zhang was stunned for a moment and shook her head. $20 for cup sterilization. I fell silent. Pei Xinyan raised her head, her eyes bright, as if she was really thinking about me. Sister, why don't you drink my milk first? I can't finish it. Shen Man frowned. Xinyan, don't mess with your good intentions. Now that she's back, she has to learn to be independent. You can't take care of everything for her. Pei Xinyan stuck out her tongue, lowered her head, and continued to cut the bread. I didn't sit down and turned towards the kitchen. There was half a bag of toast left over from last night in the refrigerator. Just as I was about to take it, a hand stopped me. Aunt Zhang said, My wife told me that the kitchen ingredients cannot be touched without reporting them. The losses must be recorded in personal accounts. I took back my hand and asked her, What about the mineral water? 30 a bottle in the cabinet. I nodded and took out the coins from my pocket. Yesterday I rummaged through everything and only found $6.50. I just washed up and gained another 61. I put the $6.50 on the kitchen counter. Then I'll buy a quarter bottle. Aunt Zhang looked at me with an expression on her face, as if someone had slapped her in the face. Miss, did you do this on purpose? I raised my eyes. I can drink as much water as I have. Is there any problem? The kitchen was very quiet. Pei Xinyan suddenly walked in from outside, reached for a bottle of mineral water, and put it directly into my hand. Sister, don't be like this. What will others think of the Pei family when they see it? I looked down at the bottle of water, and my fingertips felt slightly cold. She's always like this. Pretending to be kind and generous in front of everyone made me look like a poor, mean joke. I put the water back on the counter, and the sound was flat. I don't take it for free. Charge it to my account. As soon as these words came out, even Aunt Zhang couldn't help but look at me one more time. As if I didn't expect it, I would take the initiative to put a rope around my neck. Of course I know what they want. They wanted to see me cry. They wanted to see me making trouble. They wanted to see me hysterically asking, Why are you doing this to me? But I don't. If they give me a note, I will also note it myself. One day, I will spread this account in front of them, exactly as it is. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the etiquette teacher arrived. A woman in her 40s, wearing a slim suit and high heels, looked at me from head to toe the first time she walked in. My standing posture is bad, my shoulders are slumped, my eyes are wandering, and my fingers are thick. Mrs. Pei, your dear daughter really needs to work hard. Shen Man sat next to him drinking scented tea and smiled lightly when he heard this. Thanks a lot. Etiquette classes run from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. with only half an hour for meals in between. The teacher hit my legs with a thin stick, corrected my sitting posture, and forced me to hold the book and walk in a straight line. If you walk crookedly once, you will be punished by leaning against the wall for 10 minutes. If you raise your hand incorrectly, you'll have to do it again. If your smile is too stiff, you'll have to do it again. If your tea-drinking movements are not elegant enough, you'll have to do it again. My calves were shaking as I stood, and my back was covered in cold sweat. Pei Xinyan was in the video room next door, watching movies with her friends and opening a new luxury bag. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the etiquette teacher was finally satisfied and asked me to go through the hospitality process with a tea tray. As soon as I walked to the door, Pei Xinyan suddenly ran over in slippers, smiled, and threw herself into my arms. Sister, let me show you something. I subconsciously stepped back, the tea tray in my hand tilted, and all the hot black tea poured onto the back of my hand. The porcelain cup hit the ground and broke into several pieces with a snap. The back of my hand instantly turned red and hurt. The etiquette teacher screamed, What's wrong with you? Shen Man also stood up suddenly, his face ashen. Pei Xinyan covered her mouth, and her eye circles turned red. I'm sorry, sister. I didn't mean it. I just wanted to give you the bracelet that Master Gu gave me. The diamond bracelet on her wrist shone painfully under the light. Pei Chengyuan happened to come in from the outside, and when he saw the scene, his brows instantly furrowed. What happened again? Shen Man pointed to the broken porcelain pieces on the ground, with irrepressible anger in his voice. She dropped the antique tea set I ordered from abroad. The etiquette teacher also shook his head. Mr. Pei, Miss Pei's emotional management and physical coordination are too poor. Today's course is in vain. Pei Chengyuan looked at me, his eyes so cold that they were frozen. The tea set costs 380,000 renminbi. The teacher's tuition fee is 68,000 renminbi. The carpet cleaning fee is 8,000 renminbi, and the comfort fee for Xinyan Shak is 20,000 renminbi. Pei Ningxia, all this will be charged to your account. The back of my hand still hurts, and the whole arm is shaking from the heat. But no one asked me if it hurt. I looked down at the broken porcelain pieces on the ground and suddenly asked softly, "Then who will pay for the medicine for my burn?" The living room suddenly became quiet. Pei Xinyan's eyes were red, as if she was frightened by my words. Shen Man sneered, "You caused the trouble yourself, and you still want your family to reimburse you?" I nodded and turned to go upstairs. Pei Chengyuan's suppressed angry voice came from behind. "Stop. Who allowed you to leave?" I didn't stop. I'm afraid if I stop for another second, I will really turn around, pick up the broken porcelain cup, and fuck them hard on their faces. After turning to the room, I washed myself with cold water for a long time. It hurt so much that my eyes turned black. Then I took out my notebook and wrote down today's accounts one by one. 61 for washing water, 30 for mineral water, 68,000 for etiquette lessons, 380,000 for antique tea sets, 8,000 for carpet cleaning, and Pei Xinyan was shocked at 20,000. When I came to the last item, my pen stopped for a moment. I suddenly discovered that the most valuable thing in this home is never the things. It's Pei Xinyan's emotion. She frowned. 50,000. One red eye, 100,000. If I cry out that I am wronged, I may not be able to pay it back in my lifetime. I closed the book and was about to find some burn medicine when my phone suddenly vibrated. It is a bank payment reminder. Account with tail number 2471 earned 5 million renminbi. I was stunned. This card was given to me by my grandma before she died, saying it was the dowry she had saved for me over the years. But originally there was only 8,300 yuan in it. My fingers were trembling, and before I could react, there was a rush of footsteps outside the door. The next second, the door was pushed open violently. Shen Man rushed in, his face frighteningly ugly. "Pei Ningxia, where did you get 5 million? 3. 5 million. I looked at the phone, my palms getting cold. I don't know either. Shen Man rushed to me in one step and reached out to grab the phone. I subconsciously stepped back, but she jumped away, her expression even darker. "Why are you pretending to be stupid? Just now, the bank phone calls came to my home, saying that 5 million yuan was suddenly credited to the account in your name. How did you, a girl who grew up in the county, get so much money?" Pei Chengyuan also walked in, his eyes breathless. "Give me your phone." I clutched the phone tightly, my throat a little tight. "This is my card." "Your card?" He seemed to have heard some joke and looked at me coldly. "You are now in the Pei family, and all financial transactions should be under the supervision of the family. Who gave you the money, what it is used for, and whether there are any hidden connections. All these must be found out." His words about shady relationship made my chest tighten. My grandma raised me up by selling breakfast, picking up scraps, and mending clothes all her life. When she was alive, the Pei family never gave me a cent. Now that she has just left, they look at me like this. I took a deep breath. This is what grandma left for me. Pei Xinyan also stood at the door at some point. She crossed her arms and said softly, "Sister, isn't grandma an ordinary stall owner? 5 million is not a small amount. You shouldn't have done anything outside, right?" She didn't finish her words, but stopped at a good moment. But everyone in the living room understood. Aunt Zhang and another servant stood outside the door, with inquiry and contempt in their eyes. I stared at Pei Xinyan and suddenly asked her, "What do you really want me to do?" She seemed to be hurt by me. Her eye circles immediately turned red. "Sister, I'm just worried about you." Shen Man immediately stood in front of her and scolded me coldly. "Pei Ningxia, Xinyan kindly asks, what are you doing?" I looked at this family of 3 and suddenly felt a little tired. I've only been back for less than 2 days. They already treat me with more suspicion, boredom, and defensiveness than I have received in the last 20 years. I pulled out the account receipt text message on my phone and read it carefully twice. Suddenly, I saw a very small line of notes at the bottom. "Transfer note. This is what your mother left for you." My breath hitches. My mother. My adoptive mother passed away when I was 7 years old. Grandma kept saying that she left in a hurry and left nothing behind. Who transferred this money? Before I could figure it out, the housekeeper's voice suddenly came from downstairs. "Madam, Mr. Gu is here." Pei Xinyan's eyes lit up and she immediately turned around and ran downstairs. "Why is Jingchuan here? He didn't even tell me in advance." She ran very fast, with uncontrollable joy in her voice. I stood still and didn't move. I heard this name yesterday. Gu Jingchuan, the only son of the Gu Group, the most sought-after marriage partner in the Beijing circle, is also Pei Xinyan's childhood sweetheart. The downstairs quickly became lively. I looked down through the handrail of the stairs and saw a tall man coming and carrying a gift box. He was wearing a black coat, his eyebrows were stern, and the watch on his wrist was low-key but ridiculously expensive. Pei Xinyan stepped forward to greet her, smiling like a flower. "Jingchuan, why are you here?" Gu Jingchuan handed her the gift box in his hand with a very calm tone. "Last time you said you liked the customized desserts here." The joy in Pei Xinyan's eyes almost overflowed. "You still remember?" Shen Man laughed and joked next to her. Jingchuan has loved Yan the most since he was a child. Pei Chengyuan also rarely softened his expression. "Sit down. We'll have dinner together in the evening." I was about to go back to my room when someone downstairs suddenly looked up. Gu Jingchuan's eyes passed through the living room and fell directly on me. At that moment, I felt like he was confirming something. Pei Xinyan followed his gaze and looked over. The smile on her face froze for a moment, and then she immediately raised her voice. "Sister, come down here. This is Brother Jingchuan." All eyes fell on me. I had to go downstairs. When he reached the last step, Gu Jingchuan suddenly spoke. "What happened to your hand?" I was stunned. What he was looking at was the back of my hand that was burned red. In fact, it has been washed with cold water, so it is not too obvious. but he saw it at a glance. Pei Xingyan rushed to say, "My sister had an etiquette class in the afternoon and accidentally broke the tea set and burned herself. It's all my fault. If I didn't run over suddenly, she wouldn't be nervous." Gu Jingchuan did not answer her words and only looked down at me for 2 seconds. "Have you applied any medicine?" Before I opened my mouth, Shen Man had already smiled and smoothed things over. "A little injury. It doesn't matter. It's not good for a girl to be squeamish." Gu Jingchuan said nothing, turned to the assistant behind him and raised his hand. The assistant immediately handed over a small pillbox. "Burn cream." He put the medicine on the coffee table and spoke calmly. "With this, it won't leave scars easily." The living room was quiet for a moment. The smile on Pei Xingyan's face faded by half. I looked at the box of medicine and didn't move. But Shen Man spoke first. "Jingchuan, you are too polite. Ningxia has just come back and she still doesn't understand many things. Xingyan will have to teach her more in the future." Their relationship between sisters is stronger than anything else. Gu Jingchuan finally raised his eyes and glanced at Shen Man lightly. "Yeah." These 2 words were so light that no emotion could be heard. But I felt inexplicably that the air pressure in the living room was a little lower. During dinner, Pei Xingyan kept talking about her and Gu Jingchuan's childhood. Said that he practiced piano with her, rode horses with her, and went on vacation abroad with her. Shen Man and Pei Chengyuan answered the conversation from the side, as if they had already acquiesced that they would get together. I lowered my head and picked up the bowl of rice priced at 380 yuan without interrupting, until Shen Man suddenly turned his head and looked at me. "Ningxia, the Gu family will have a family dinner in 2 days. You should go too." I raised my head. "Me?" "Yes." Pei Chengyuan put down his knife and fork and said calmly, "Now that I'm back, I should take you out to show your face. But remember, listen more and speak less, and don't cause trouble for the Pei family." Pei Xingyan held the spoon in her hand and paused slightly. She quickly laughed. "My sister will definitely be nervous when she attends such an occasion for the first time. Mom, how about I accompany her to choose a dress?" Shen Man smiled and nodded. Xingyan is still sensible. I lowered my eyes and didn't answer. After dinner, I returned to the room and was about to put away the box of burn ointment when my phone rang again. It's not a text message this time. It's an email. The sender is anonymous and the subject is 1 sentence. "The Pei family did not bring you back to recognize you." My fingertips stiffened and I clicked on the email. There is only 1 photo inside. The photo was very blurry, but you could still see it clearly. It was a copy of a hospital medical record. There are 3 words written in the name column. Pei Xingyan. The diagnostic conclusion column was printed with a line of black text. "Acute renal failure requires relative matching as soon as possible." I stared at that photo, and my back felt a little chilly. Suddenly, there were footsteps outside the door. The next second, there was a knock on the door. Pei Xingyan's voice came in softly. "Sister, are you asleep? I brought you a cup of hot milk." 4. I didn't open the door. Pei Xingyan paused outside the door for a few seconds, and her voice became softer. "Sister, are you still angry with me because of what happened during the day?" "I really didn't mean it. If you don't want to see me, I'll leave the milk at the door. Remember to drink it." After saying that, it was quiet outside the door. I stood there, staring at the medical record photo on my phone, and my heart felt tight. Acute renal failure. Relative matching. It turns out that when they brought me back, my beloved daughter, who had been missing for many years, was finally found. It's Pei Xingyan who is sick. They need a working me. I held the phone, my palms covered in cold sweat. After a long time, I walked over and opened the door a crack. Sure enough, there was a cup of hot milk on the ground. There is a sticky note pressed at the bottom of the cup with the words Pei Xingyan Zhuangxi on it. "Sister, good night." I looked at that line of text and suddenly felt it was ironic. While she was delivering milk to me, she was probably already waiting for my matching results. The next morning, Shen Man indeed asked me to go to the hospital. She said it very naturally, as if she was arranging an ordinary physical examination. "Ningxia, you have just returned home, and your physical data needs to be reestablished. The Pei family attaches great importance to health management." I sat in the back seat of the car, tilted my head and looked out the window, and said nothing. "When you arrive at the hospital, you have private VIP access." There was no queue all the way, and the nurses and doctors were too polite. When I was taken into the examination room to draw blood, I noticed that on the list the nurse handed to the doctor, the top line said, "Expedited priority for related tissue matching." My heart sank. Before the doctor spoke, I raised my head and asked, "Who is this match for?" The doctor paused, his smile a little stiff. "Regular items." I just pulled the sleeves down. "Routine projects do not require writing tissue matching." The air was silent for 2 seconds. Shen Man stood at the door. The gentleness on his face gradually faded. "Pei Ningxia, please stop making trouble. It's just a blood draw. Do you have anything to ask?" I looked at her and said softly, "Then tell me, are you going to use my kidney to save Pei Xingyan?" Her expression changed. The nurses and doctors nearby lowered their heads and pretended not to hear. Shen Man walked in quickly and lowered his voice. "This is a hospital. Why are you crazy?" I didn't retreat and stared into her eyes. "You said you would pick me up yesterday because you wanted to make it up to me. You're taking me with you for matching today. Don't you feel disgusted?" Snap. A slap hit me hard on the face. There was a buzzing in my ears, and half of my face went numb instantly. After Shen Man finished playing, he was stunned for a moment. But soon, she gritted her teeth and assumed her condescending look again. "Speak more clearly." "Xingyan grew up with you in the Pei family. She called me mom for 20 years. She is not in good health. What's wrong with me, a mother, to find a way for her? You have the blood of the Pei family in your body. If you really deserve it, you should repay it. I covered my face and smiled slowly. Return. I had to pay by the bowl for my first meal yesterday. Are you going to talk to me about paying it back today? Shen Man choked at my words, and his eyes turned completely cold. Pei Ningxia, don't be so shameless. If it weren't for Xingyan, do you think the Pei family would bring back a girl like you who grew up at the bottom? You should be grateful that you can live in the Pei family, wear these clothes, and come into contact with a circle that you couldn't touch before. Don't say it's just about drawing blood to make a match. If we are really matched, even if it costs you a kidney, you owe it to the Pei family. After she finished speaking, she raised her hand to signal the doctor. Hold her down and pump. 2 nurses came over immediately. I took a step back, turned around, and ran. The VIP inspection area was quiet. As I walked through the corridor, the soles of my shoes made a sharp sound on the floor tiles. Someone was shouting behind me, someone was chasing me. I rushed to the elevator entrance and just pressed the button when a hand suddenly stretched out from the side and blocked the door from closing for me. I turned around sharply. Gu Jingchuan stood in the elevator, wearing a black suit and a cold expression. His eyes fell on my red face and paused for half a second. Who hit me? I was panting heavily and didn't speak. The footsteps behind him were approaching, and Shen Man's voice came over. Ningxia, come back. Gu Jingchuan pressed the door button, and his eyes became colder. Go mean. I almost didn't hesitate and got into the elevator immediately. The second before the elevator door closed, Shen Man rushed outside. When she saw Gu Jingchuan, her expression changed instantly. Jingchuan, this is a family matter of our Pei family. Gu Jingchuan raised his eyes with a very calm expression. Is it a family matter to hit someone in the hospital? The door was completely closed, isolating Shen Man's ugly face. As the elevator went down, I leaned against the car, my fingers still trembling. Gu Jingchuan glanced at me and handed me a tissue. My face is swollen. I didn't answer. My throat was dry. Thank you. He put the tissue into my hand, and his voice was calm. You saw the medical records. Not a question. I looked up at him, feeling even more wary. Did you send that anonymous email? He didn't deny it. The Pei family has been looking for a suitable donor. Kind matching has the highest success rate. They won't let you go easily after you come back. I stared at him. Why did you help me? The elevator dinged to the first floor. When he walked out, he replied lightly, because I hate being thought of as blind. I followed him out of the hospital. The sun was bright at the door, but I felt cold all over. A black Maybach was parked at the foot of the steps, and the driver had opened the door. Gu Jingchuan looked sideways at me. Get in the car. I didn't move. Why should I trust you? He looked at me for 2 seconds and suddenly smiled, a very light smile. Besides trusting me, do you have anywhere else to go now? The wind blew over, and the slap marks on my face hurt. He's right. My grandma is gone. I have no house, no savings, and no friends in the city. Back to Pei's house. It's a cage. If I don't go back to Pei's house, I won't even know where to sleep tonight. I gritted my teeth and got in the car. The moment the car door closed, my phone suddenly vibrated like crazy. There were a dozen missed calls in a row, all from Pei Qingyuan. Finally, a text message. Pei Ningxia, come back immediately. If you dare to run away, I will make your grandma's grave unsafe. I looked at the text message and tightened my fingers little by little. It turned out that when they brought me back, they even refused to let go of the dead. Gu Jingchuan glanced at the screen of my mobile phone, his eyes darkening. Just as he was about to speak, a new message came in on my phone. This time the sender is an unknown number. The message is only one sentence. Your grandma did not die of illness. 5. It was a little too quiet in the car. I stared at the new text message, breathing a little raggedly. Grandma did not die of illness. These words were like a dull knife, slowly stirring in my mind. My adoptive mother passed away when I was 7 years old, and my grandma raised me by herself. She has been in poor health and was diagnosed with advanced lung cancer last winter. The doctor said there was no point in surgery and could only be treated conservatively. I accompanied her to the hospital, buy medicine, borrow money, and work part-time. During her last days, she was in so much pain that she couldn't sleep all night long, but she still held my hand and repeated one sentence. Don't blame your parents. They don't know you are suffering outside. I believed it. So when the Pei family came to visit me, even though I felt uneasy, I still followed them back with a little thought. But now, someone told me that Grandma did not die of illness. Then how did she die? I held the phone, my fingertips turned white, and dialed the number back. Empty number. I tried again, and couldn't get through. Gu Jingchuan sat next to me and waited for me to put down my phone before he said, Did your grandma have any contact with anyone from the Pei family before she passed away? I was stunned for a moment, and looked up at him. What do you mean? Literally. He looked ahead and said in a calm tone, The Pei family has not been in a hurry to pick you up since they found you. They waited until your grandma passed away before they immediately brought you back. This timing is such a coincidence. My throat tightened. Yes. Why is it such a coincidence? If they had come earlier, Grandma could still see me back at my biological parents' home. She might be happy. She might feel relieved. But they waited for her to die before taking me away. Like, deliberately waiting for something to end. I clutched my phone, my voice hoarse. Have you checked? Gu Jingchuan hummed lightly. Only a scratch was found. When your grandma was last hospitalized, Pei's charity fund gave the hospital a targeted subsidy. The amount was not large, and the name was normal. But that hospital happens to be the place where Pei Xinyan undergoes long-term review. My heart sinks suddenly. You mean Grandma's death is related to Pei Xinyan? I didn't say that. He turned his head and glanced at me. There's no evidence now. Don't rush to conclusions yet. I closed my eyes and pressed my forehead against the car window. Cold. The cold is coming out from the cracks in the bones. Gu Jingchuan took me to an apartment under his name. The house is not big, but it is so quiet that people can breathe a sigh of relief. There were no timers, no tolls, no look from anyone telling me you owe us. He asked his assistant to bring ice packs and ointment and poured me a glass of warm water. When I took the water, I subconsciously asked, "Does this also need to be recorded?" When the words came out, I was stunned. The room was silent for a second. Gu Jingchuan looked at me and frowned slightly. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. I held the cup and said nothing. He was silent for a few seconds, then turned around and put the entire pot of hot water in front of me. There's no charge for drinking. I looked down at the steam coming out of the cup, and my eyes suddenly felt a little sore. In the Pei family, even a bottle of mineral water costs 30. When I got here, a whole pot of hot water was placed in front of me, but no one took the bill. In the evening, Gu Jingchuan's assistant sent a document. I opened it, and the first page was my bank statement. The 5 million transfer was circled in red. The source account is an overseas trust fund. In the beneficiary remarks column, there are 4 words written. Su Wan's legacy. I was stunned. Su Wan is the name of my adoptive mother. The assistant explained from the side. This money was not made by the Pei family. Someone really opened a trust for you in the name of your adoptive mother. But the strange thing is that the transfer time happens to be the day before you return to Pei's house. It's like I'm deliberately reminding you that money has arrived. I stared at the line of words. My mind was in a mess. I was only 7 years old when my adopted mother died. How could she leave an overseas trust for me? Unless the money was not hers in the first place. Unless someone borrowed her name to send the money to me. But why is it exactly 5 million? The assistant turned to the next page. And this? It was a photograph of the minutes of an internal meeting of the Pei group. One of the lines reads, Public relations budget for the true daughter's return, within 5 million. My vision went dark, and I almost crumpled the paper. 5 million. It turns out it was not an inheritance given to me. It was the public relations budget used by the Pei family to deal with my real daughter's return incident. What did someone want to do by transferring this money to my card? Tell me to take the money and shut up? Or do you want to blame this matter on me, saying that I only returned to the Pei family for money? Gu Jingchuan sat across from me, looking at my face turning pale a little, and his tone became lower. If you go back now, they will make a fuss about the 5 million first. I said you were greedy for money, that you had evil intentions, that you cooperated with outsiders to slander the family for money. I put the file down, my palms all sweaty. Then I won't go back. He glanced at me. If you don't go back, they will have more reason to spread rumors. The Pei family has a public relations team, media resources, and a whole set of ways to pour dirty water on you. I stared down at the corner of the table, feeling a lump in my chest. I used to think that being poor was already very difficult. Later I discovered that the hardest part was not having no money. It's because you don't even have a decent mouth to speak for yourself when you're being harmed. Just then, my cell phone rang. This time it's not the Pei family. It's a hospital. The nurse's tone was polite, but a little hesitant. Miss Pei, someone has applied for access to your grandmother's previous hospitalization records.